I would give her a full makeover. There's buildings I would like to knock down and restructure, but obviously there's money and there's costs. If buildings can go from disrepair to amazingly, whoop, whoop,
Whoop, whoop.
I'm all for.
Yeah.
But if I had a magic wand and I could change things, I would change a lot of things. And I think my biggest bugbear that I would change is the postcode lottery. So try and fight for Cllr to be one community, whether it serves under BCBC or under RCT.
At least it's under one.
Realistically be one. It's a one way in, one way out community.
Yeah. So it would make sense just to
drive into Rhondda to get to Bridgend.
Yeah.
And then, you're driving out of Bridgend into a Rhondda. And it's the same community. It's the same village.
Yeah.
One big significant thing that happened during COVID was one side of the valley was out of lockdown and the other remained in lockdown, but yet it was the same community.
So how did that work then?
It was very difficult.
I can imagine.
There was a lot of arguments.
I bet there were. Wow.
But even something like that is down to COVID.
Yeah.
It's...
Yeah, and it's almost comical in a way, and I don't mean that in a rude way, but like...
Well, you're in GGCA, one of the most iconic buildings in the heart of Cllr.
Absolutely.
But at one point, there were people in, and this is no disrespect to the staff because, this is my...
This is your baby, yeah.
Obviously, this is where I started in the beginning, so I do not have any bad word to say about this building, but not due to the staff, but down to the authority, was they were, at one point, RCT had a good employability service. So they would run in tangible benefits, tangible training, getting access into the fire service, access into the NHS. It was a fantastic program. It was called the LIFT program. And unfortunately, people in RCT, in the RCT side of Cllr, were allowed. But then the people in Evanstown, like myself at the time, who I was unemployed, I wasn't allowed to access that training. And they were tangible benefits to get into the NHS, to get into the fire service. Opportunities like that don't happen to communities such as Cllr. And that was the most heartening, and it was because I was gutted myself.
Yeah, I
because
couldn't. Devastating.
I had to live, and my sister lived over in Clydach at the time, and I could have put her postcode down, but I didn't.
No.
Because I didn't want to get, in case somebody said, "Oh, why are you travelling to Cllr when you're living in Clydach?"
Yeah.
I didn't want it to come back to bite me and I'd be in trouble as well as I wouldn't if it does eventually come into Evanstown, which it didn't. Then probably that would have, I probably wouldn't have been allowed to access it because I broke the rules.
Which is... It's sad that, you would even, you would have to consider doing something like that just to be able to get access to these services. And just simply because you live in the town, like the street over from the postcode that's allowed to. It's ridiculous.
Since I've been a councillor, I've tried to get into these MPs and to the assembly members. You've got a small village like Cllr is represented by two borough councillors, one who was amazing and she's RCT side, who's Ivron Roberts. Hiya Ivron.
Shout out Ivron Roberts.
And again, she's heart and soul like this building of Cllr.
The queen.
She is, and she goes above and beyond. And it's not just above and beyond to her, because she could cut off people in Bridgend. She could. Because her job is just RCT covering.
Yeah.
But she goes that extra mile to make sure that people in Bridgend are still classed as residents, and that's so important.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've got two borough councillors. One who was amazing, like I said. The other yeah, he's okay.
Mm.
But then you've got over like 15 community councillors. But this
Okay.
valley, sorry, I always call it a valley, but this village is one of the smallest villages in South Wales.
Yeah.
Why has it got over 15
Yeah.
community councillors, which are
Yeah.
operated by two different community councillors, two community councils
Yeah.
in such a small village like
Yeah.
ours? It's a one-way in, it's a one-way out village.
It's unnecessary, isn't it?
It's very unnecessary.
We would think with that many councillors, they would have pushed for that division to be ended or, you know, dissolved or whatever the word
Me and
is.
Cheryl and Ivron, you know, we always say about it.
Yeah.
There will come a time because it's gonna, it's biting at me, but it comes a time when enough is enough.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that it's getting to that point where enough is enough, and
Yeah.
something has got to be done. Is it necessary?
Mm-hmm.
You know, instead of paying to two different two community councils, why? You know, and that referendum happened probably in the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
people who voted in that referendum are probably no longer around.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So, and like we've said,
Times
you know,
have changed.
during
It's
this,
different now.
times have changed and circumstances have changed.
Definitely. Like the COVID thing, I'm absolutely shocked about that because, I
in
mean,
the
that
papers.
is just ridiculous. You know, it's just, what? I mean, okay, there's a division in, you know, councils. Sorry, what it is councils, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that, like, considering how strict they were, they're just, how does that...
The bugbear is our services are all in RCT.
Yeah. Well, all of Gilvax.
So so like you got the job centre, our NHS,
Yeah.
you know, our schools,
Yeah.
you know, all our community
Stuff.
provisions in the community, you know, are run by two different separate councils. It just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. It really
We've
doesn't.
got gritters that come into the valley. You got one that goes up and goes, obviously we've got it's called the Waterfalls, which is the division where obviously where the
so that's where you know it's
starts.
split. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So the Waterfalls. In the winter, you've got one RCT truck that goes up to RCT side, stops in the Waterfalls, and then drives back down. And then about 2 hours later, you've got the BCBC that goes up to BCBC.
Yeah.
One side stops in the Waterfalls and then congregates back down.
It's giving.
It's stupid.
It's giving
costing the taxpayers money.
Yeah. It's giving expensive. You know. It's giving expensive.
And in this day and age, and the cost of living crisis, you know, if you want to make, what do they call it? Long-term savings, or long-term strategies, then obviously this is the one that they need to look at, because you know, it's dividing the community where it shouldn't. It doesn't need to be divided.
An unnecessary divide. I think I'm going to make a poem about that because it sounds very catchy.
Very.